Hey guys, this is gonna be my June wrap up. I had a pretty good book month, if I do say so myself. I didn't read as much, but what I read was real good. So I'm just gonna hop into it. The first book that I read this month is Mosquito Land by David Arnold. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. When I started this, I didn't think that I would like it as much as I did. It's kind of reminiscent of like Juno or John Green books where the characters in it are very quirky and funny and kind of odd characters, and I think I've grown out of that stage in that it's not as appealing to me anymore because I don't find the characters as believable because there aren't that many people. Yes, there are people that are that way, but it's not very commonplace to meet people who have kind of such strange quirks in their life. So this book essentially started out as Juno, which is not a bad thing, but it ended up as Garden State. And in my mind, Garden State is amazing. So it's just a story about a girl who lives with her dad and her stepmother and kind of finds out that something's wrong with her mother, and she hops on a bus and travels across the country to be with her. The girl is kind of strange, has her own little quirks in life, and she just meets a lot of characters along the way, and by the end of the book, you feel so good inside. It was a great read. I highly recommend it. So that was a 5-star book for me. So the next book that I read, I'm pretty sure everybody read either this month or the month before, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This book was so stinking good. I tend to not really lean towards what all the hype is about with big best-selling books. I tend to not really agree with what people liked about it. They had it with this book. This book was good stuff. I'm sure everybody's pretty much already heard about this, knows what it's about. Basically because the synopsis did not catch my attention. Had it not been as huge of a success as it was, I probably would not have ever picked it up based on what the synopsis was, because all it's really about is like told from two perspectives of like kind of a peasant slave type girl and a soldier. That didn't really appeal to me. This book, I kind of define it as the climactic scene in every book that you kind of fly through when you're reading it, like you start skimming because it's so action-packed. That was the entire book for me. I read this in one sitting and my heart did not stop pounding. It was so well written, as in not necessarily cliffhangers, but it just, you couldn't stop wanting to know what was going to happen. So thank God this is not going to be a standalone, because I know that was the rumor when it came out. So yeah. This was yet another 5-star book for me this month. The next book that I read, I listened to it actually, and that is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. I mainly was intrigued by the cover of this and the fact that it's a historical fiction book, and I'm trying to read more of those because I feel like I get more out of them. They're kind of educational. I gave this 3 stars. I liked it, and it was intriguing, but not enough happened for me to, like, be wowed by it. This story is basically about a young woman in the Netherlands in the 1600s, I believe. She kind of gets married off to this rich merchant, moves in with him and his workers and sister, and kind of has to experience what it's like being kind of bought into a marriage and meeting the people of his life. The intrigue of it was the fact that he gave her a miniature version of their house as a wedding present, and there's this mysterious character that keeps making miniatures of people or things that are relevant in the house to her, and you don't really find out much about that until the end, and it's still kind of open-ended. I don't know. I feel like I would have liked this book. We just didn't mesh very well. I kind of wanted more to the story than what it was, but it was a cool experience. I don't know what I'm saying. It was a pretty good book. It was written well. So I gave that 3 stars. The next book that I read is Well, it was a long time coming, and I am probably going to read the sequel now that it is out, and that is Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins. Um, Everybody has read this book, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really find it that appealing just because the cover and it didn't sound like something that I would really like. It sounded kind of young to me in that it's like a Southern Belle, homecoming queen meets like assassins. Yeah, that sounds cool, but I don't know, I just thought it was gonna be not as good as it was. It was pretty much as good as everyone says it is. It made me laugh out loud, which not many books do. It was adorable and pretty much everything that you want it to be, and that's pretty much it. Yep. I gave that 3 stars. It was pretty good. The next book that I read is easily one of my favorite books of the year so far, and that is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This book is so good. This is his debut novel, and I am pretty much going to read everything that he writes after this. That's the effect that this book had on me. It's about a boy growing up in the Bronx, has a pretty good life, but is kind of struggling with finding himself and stuff that happened to him in his past. It's just so good. Just read it. It deals with sexuality and really tough mental illness issues and suicide. Yes, there is a suicide trigger warning in this, just a heads up. It was just so good. Like, there were so many feels, and I cried at the end of it. It's one of those books that will just make you cry ugly tears. So, read this book. Just do it. It's so good. So, 5 stars. The next book that I read was yet another long time coming book, and that is Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. The only reason that I didn't read this the second that it came out was because it does not match my books. Because I have the original covers for the first 2, and I just really don't want to either rebuy the first 2 or have the third one not match. I was kind of waiting for it to come out on paperback, but it still hasn't, so I just read the ebook version, and that held me over, I guess. It was adorable, as all of her other books are. It was so stinking cute. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a really cute contemporary, I don't want to say trilogy, they're just companion novels. The characters are present in the other books, but it's not really about the people until you get to that book. I gave it 4 stars. It was adorable and as good as all the other ones. It's so great. And the last book that I read this month is Falling Into Place by Amy Zhang. This is yet another suicide book. I don't know what the trend is going on. If it's whatever I'm drawn to or whatever books are coming out, there seems to be a lot of suicide in YA right now, and a lot of like mental illness issues, which I think is probably good. It's about time that that stuff got addressed to teens. This is about pretty much your stereotypical Regina George type character, the mean, popular girl. And the book starts with her driving her car off the road in attempts to kill herself. And the whole story is told kind of back and forth in time prior to the accident and during it, what all the people in the hospital are dealing with while she is kind of in the ICU. So I liked it. I feel like I've kind of overwhelmed myself with suicide heavy books lately. So I gave this 3 stars. It was an interesting take on it based on how many different perspectives were in it, but it wasn't as gripping as I wanted it to be, so this was just 3 stars. So all in all, it was a pretty good book month. I had some standout books that are going to be in my like top 2015 books this month, so it was a pretty good book month. So that's pretty much it. That's all that I read this month. What about you guys? What'd you read? So yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!